Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon. This is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halakha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 116, Seif 15, to Siman 117, Seif 4. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. We continue our discussion of koshering utensils for Pesach. And I want to begin with the same note as yesterday, that you should remember when koshering via hagala, that's immersion in boiling water, your success depends on surface contact to remove that chametz flavor. So you've got to completely immerse the object. You've got to float the thing for at least an instant. And spots where things are touching don't get koshered. It's important to wait until a vessel it's been at least 24 hours since you've used a particular vessel before you try to kosher it. And the Kitzur brings up the principle of ben yomo. This is another bedrock kashrut principle that's good to know. So after 24 hours, any flavor that's remaining on a dish from whatever was cooked in it is considered to be spoiled. It's not edible anymore and therefore can't actually trafe anything up because it's not food anymore. It's nothing at all. You can't rely on this, so you can't just keep one set of dishes and let 24 hours lapse between usages and rely on that. But after the fact, say an accident happened, you accidentally cooked meat in your dairy pan, it may actually be okay. The first question is always, is it ben yomo? Is it within 24 hours that you last used it for the opposite polarity type of food? If you are sort of self-koshering a vessel, like the pot you're actually going to kosher a bunch of other stuff in, you can do that by first boiling water in it and then dropping in hot stones that causes the water to overflow the sides, running down the outside, and you get a full immersion. Afterwards, after koshering is complete in your boiling water, it's customary to rinse with cold water. Now the Mishnah Berurah adds here that this is so that the vessel won't absorb the boiling water of the koshering vessel. And this seems like something of a catch-22. If you dunk a utensil in boiling water, where does the flavor go? It seems like it has to remain there in the boiling water, and if you're dipping more things in that same water, maybe they're going to absorb, so the rinse allows that flavor to go somewhere else. Cold doesn't facilitate the transfer of flavor, only heat does, so a cold rinse can get rid of the flavor entirely. I remember learning about the laws of kashrut for the first time as we wrap up this discussion. I was pretty put out at the time by how unscientific they sometimes are, talking about flavor as if it consists of real particles instead of subjective taste perception, but methods of expunging those flavors don't actually then treat it like particles at all. So a useful metaphor, and I'm being absolutely serious, that helped me just sort of get my head around this, was to think about kashrut like cooties. It helped me kind of get my mind around and divorce myself from my brain's insistence on scientific rationality to this whole process. That's all for koshering vessels for Pesach, and we move on to, in Siman 117, what seems to me to be some miscellaneous halachot related to chametz. So if you find a chametz mixture on Erev Pesach, note it's not actually Pesach yet, but this is still after you've done all the searching and burning. You can bring in the principle of bitul b'shishim, that's nullification in 60. So if the prohibited substance is less than 1/60th of the whole volume of the mixture, that prohibited substance effectively rounds down to zero. It's inconsequential. For example, a dollop of cream in a meat stew that's 60 times larger than that dollop. Again, you can't rely on this and you can't do it on purpose, but it's a way to salvage, something where an accident may happen and you get two things combined. However, this doesn't apply to Pesach to chametz on Pesach. In that case, we're actually super strict, and we don't apply the rule of bitul shishim for any chametz. It's all forbidden. A couple of important caveats. This only applies if it's cooled off before Pesach begins, that it stops the absorption of flavor. And it also applies only for liquid mixtures, according for Ashkenazim. Dry food mixes get tossed out, according to the comment of the Ramah on the Shulchan Aruch. Some more miscellaneous halachot. If your well water gets contaminated with chametz, you may have a big problem. That said, I can't seriously imagine telling someone that they have no water supply at all during Pesach just because a piece of bread fell in. There's a pretty obvious live by them, don't die by them kind of an issue here. Don't singe your poultry with ears of corn. I don't know what kind of practice that is, but don't do that. Make sure to examine your poultry carefully and remove the crop. The crop is a small pocket where food is stored, so you want to make sure to check that for any undigested chametz. Finally, we get to the category of kitniot. Now, this is a notoriously controversial and difficult category to define with precision. These are things, kitniot, that are prohibited on Pesach, at least to Ashkenazi Jews, but that are not actually chametz. And the reason they're prohibited is a matter of debate. Nevertheless, this is the Ashkenazi custom. Remember, this is the Ashkenazi position presented by the Kitzur. The items that are considered kitniot are not enumerated here. It just says kitniot are prohibited. But usually they're things like legumes, corn, rice, beans, lentils, peas, various seeds. Things that kind of can be made to be kind of bread-like in some ways. If this is a specific concern for you, I encourage you to check out the November 2015 Teshuvah from the Conservative Committee on Jewish Laws and Standards, which actually permits kitniot to Ashkenazim. I will link that Teshuvah in this video's description. The Kitzur then also worries about things like dried fruits, like figs and raisins, that may have contacted chametz during preparation. Also, orange peels it prohibits for some reason. I'm not clear on why that is. Cloves, saffron, spices, including salt. Again, this stuff is not actually chametz. So a drink made from raisins, for example, is okay. And also, of course, today, this is what the kosher for Passover hechsher is for, is to make sure that these foods were prepared in such a way that they didn't come into contact with chametz. This is a long video today. That is all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. I'll see you tomorrow.